So Venus is now combust in the sky. I'm going to be talking about combust Venus and also the aspect onto Jupiter and how retrograde and combustion work together in this video. Please like, share, and subscribe to this video on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or other social media channels. Share it with others and leave a comment if you like. So as you can see, this is a picture of the sky right now. Current retrograde and combustion. Retrograde Jupiter and Saturn are shown up here. You see they're opposite or in a trinal relationship with the Sun. That's when they're retrograde. And then down here we have Venus combust, which is very close to the Sun and on the opposite side of the Sun, which means it's as far away from the Earth as possible now. And the combustion of Venus is a pretty intense thing. When Venus is combust, it sort of has this idea of, I love you, damn it, now love me back or I'll tear you limb from limb. Where the combustion both adds a lot of force to the energy of the planet, but also a frustration as it's purifying the external nature of that planet. Now, I'm actually about to teach a major masterclass on retrograde and combust planets as well. You should really check that out if you want to understand these things better. Most people have either one or two retrograde planets and a combust planet or something like that in their chart. Plus, if you're an astrologer and you're doing readings, you should really learn how to explain these things correctly because they're really different from each other. So check that out as well. Now, these retrograde planets will affect in a natal chart based on their indicators, like Jupiter is the Karaka or the indicator of children, gurus, teachers, higher teachings and wisdom, and also the houses that it rules. So like if you're a Taurus, those things come in the form of the 8th and the 11th house. If you're Scorpio, in the 2nd and 5th house. So the retrograde planet creates confusion around those things. Again, maybe you have that piece of information, but how do you actually interpret it? In addition, the planet by transit is doing something different for every one of the ascendants. For example, if you're a Cancer ascendant, Jupiter is that 6th and 9th house ruler and it's retrograde in the 9th house. So what does that mean? Again, these all need to be interpreted differently, right? So right now, Jupiter is showing confusion about how to put your teachings into practice, etc. Again, that's for all of us in a very Piscean type of way. And Saturn is showing how much we need to concentrate and focus and commit to those teachings. Now again, Saturn rules the signs of Capricorn and Aquarius. So if you're a Leo person, it rules your 6th and 7th house. So retrograde Saturn brings confusion around those things if it's in your natal chart or by transit in the sky. So right now we're all going through this idea of what do we work hard and make a commitment to, which is the indicator of Saturn. This is the Karaka of Saturn for all of us. That's the common indicator. The Karaka means the shared karma that we all have with that planet. And then the house ruler shows the specific way that the karma shows up. For example, for Aries, it shows up in the 10th and 11th house because that's the houses that Saturn rules. So the retrograde creates confusion around those things. And by the way, in the upcoming course, I'm going to talk about that for all the 12 signs, all the planets, every situation. So right now, those things are going on. To make it more complicated, we even have an aspect from Venus onto Jupiter. Not only is it an aspect, but Venus is now combust. And you can see by this diagram, Jupiter is Jupiter is closer to the Earth as it can possibly be right now. And Venus is on the other side of the Sun. So Venus would be behind the Sun here being combust. So when a planet is combust, its energy is coming through the Sun. So it's like burned up in the rays of the Sun. So when the planet is combust, it's very much an opposite thing. The retrograde, it's slowing down and sort of going backwards. The combust planet, it's actually moving very fast because it's as far away from the Earth as possible, so its speed gets added to the speed of the Earth, and the planet is actually moving very fast, so we tend to have a lot of energy with that thing, but it's also getting burnt up and there's frustration. So this is why we have this graphic. I love you, damn it. Like, I'm putting a lot of focus on this. Now you better respect me or I'll tear you limb from limb. Or you better love me back or I'll tear you limb from limb. I changed this graphic a couple times. I put you'd better respect me on this one because respect is the kind of issue that Venus is most concerned with. I could have said, now you better love me back, which is how it feels, or I'll tear you limb from limb. But the thing that really makes the Venus combustion become frustrated is the issue of respect. What do I have to do in order to get the connection? And do I feel respected and appreciated for the compromises and the trade-offs that I'm willing to make? Because we're making the agreement. Nobody can force us to disrespect ourselves. Only we can do that. So there's frustration around this when Venus is combust. In the current sky, it's also debilitated, which means we're finding a lot of fault with all of the agreements and with other people and with our interactions with others. It's in Virgo, so we're noticing all the things about the way people communicate with us and the way we communicate that's frustrating us because we want the connection. That's what Venus wants, and it's a lot of energy because it's the sun pushing it out, but then it's like, but I don't want it to be this way. So the combustion is also a big part of retrograde. It's a retrograde combust energy because it all has to do with the proximity of the planets to the Earth and the Sun. When they're closer to the Earth and furthest from the Sun, they're retrograde. When they're furthest from the Earth and closest to the Sun, they're combust. I think I said that correctly. So as it says here, combust Venus, energized but frustrated agreements. So energized agreements but frustrated. That includes relationships and other agreements. That includes sexuality, money, and it really affects women's relationships. So when Venus is combust for women, because women get so much of their identity around the Venus principle, which means beauty, the wanting to please the other, the compromise, even the sexuality of a woman revolves around Venus, whereas for men it revolves more around Mars and Jupiter. For a woman especially, for a man also, but it affects the sexuality in a different way because it's more about values and has more to do with money and other kinds of things. But with women, it definitely can revolve around the compromises and trade-offs that include things like sexuality in a romantic relationship. So again, these are the things that I'm really going to be talking about in the upcoming course as well. It's not just going to be these general things. We're going to get into, again, the power struggles and the compromises that come through sexuality and feeling ashamed or money and feeling taken advantage of. Also with our children, shame and frustration around, again, even things like our children or teachers. Again, this is often Jupiter combustion. Most people don't know the combustion as well. And frankly, they think they know the retrograde better than they do because they don't know how to explain either one with great detail and great precision. Maybe you understand in general, oh yeah, Jupiter, confusion around teachers. Yeah, that's so true. But what about the houses that it rules? And what about the houses by transit? We're going to break all of that down in the upcoming course, and I'm going to teach you how to actually do retrograde and combust readings, entire consultations, just based on those things. Retrograde and combust planets in a person's natal chart and in the sky, like right now. I'm even doing these retrograde and combust readings now that are applicable for everyone, because regardless of whether you have them in your chart, you have these retrograde and combust situations in your life. In the sky, Jupiter is retrograde in Pisces for you, whether you know it or not, it is, same way with Saturn. So how to do these type of readings to counsel people through these months of confusing and frustrating episodes. So that course is going to be very valuable for anyone who wants to know more about their combust and retrograde planets, especially if you're doing readings. But right now, we have these it's a great opportunity to really see this phenomena in action. That's why I decided to teach the course now, by the way, because I knew these things were coming, and we even have an aspect here between the combust planet and the retrograde planet. So again, as Jupiter retrograde has us reflecting on our teachings, and as it says here, do we have weak teachings or weak motivation or both? That's the sort of the sort of compounded effect of having Saturn retrograde and Jupiter retrograde. Weak teachings, Jupiter, or weak motivation and commitments, Saturn, or both? Which one? So right now with the Jupiter retrograde in Pisces, we're really evaluating whether or not we're putting our teachings into practice, whether they're the right ones, whether we really understand what we think we know. Because again, if you can't explain it and you don't really comprehend it, and as soon as life throws you a curveball, you're ready to jump out the window, then you're not really as spiritual as you think. You don't really understand it because you're not putting it into practice. So again, this is what the Jupiter retrograde in Pisces is about, is to connect to a more mystical possibility. Now this aspect from the Combust Venus can really be showing how, again, you're sort of maybe irritated about it. And even maybe the teachers or the people in your life that you thought you would learn something from, it's just frustrating all around. Or this Venus combustion is also making it so that you're just finding fault with the people in your life and the agreements that you made and the trust and how that impacts, again, perhaps it's not teachers and gurus, but perhaps it's other types of agreements, especially like business agreements or certainly romantic relationships, and what you thought they were going to teach you and how those things also collide with your spirituality. Because this is one way that Jupiter and Venus are always at odds with each other. Jupiter is the teacher of the devas that wants to take us out of all of the allure of the senses. And Venus is the part that's like, no, but I still want to be happy. I still can be happy, right? I'm still here to be happy, right? We're still here supposed to have happy relationships, right? I can still be spiritual to have a partnership, right? I can still have all the desires fulfilled in the world and be happy, be spiritual, right? 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 Said Venus. And now there's frustration around this kind of pull. Like Jupiter in Pisces is going, you're not of this world, right? This is what you believe, right? You're spiritual, meditation, all that, yeah. Venus is opposite in Virgo going, argh. But examine your preconceptions about all these things I'm saying, because as you can tell, I talk to a lot of people, and it's very hard for us, it's very hard for our ego and our life through the body to imagine that life isn't going to include sensual joy and happiness and pleasure and sex and good food, nice people, beauty everywhere. Again, it's very shattering when, in many ways, that's not part of the authentic spiritual path. It doesn't mean that the authentic spiritual path is against it. It's not against it at all. In fact, as I always say, Venus is about beauty and joy and happiness, but happiness for no reason. That's why Venus is exalted in Pisces, where everything makes us happy because we find beauty in everything. We find beauty in that which is transcendent. In fact, that which is transcendent is not connected to another person, a sensual experience, the approval of another person, somebody liking us, or whatever it is that Venus is so focused on. Enjoying life, being appreciated, none of that. Swami Shivananda says, take, praise or censure as the same thing, right? Except, if someone's praising you or criticizing you, it's all the same. For the yogi, there's no difference. And that's not the same with Venus. In Virgo, especially. Because in Virgo, we notice all the things that were said that weren't right, all the ways you disrespected me. And the Pisces principle is where it all blends together and we have happiness for no reason. We're happy just because we're alive and we're immersed in the Divine Mother. And by the way, this is happening within the Navratri time. So there's a lot of possibility to really be surrendering and connecting to that transcendent beauty. And by the way, when we see a planet in its own sign like Jupiter in Pisces aspecting that Venus in Virgo where it's debilitated, this Jupiter in Pisces can really pull it up. So here's the benefit for that debilitated combust Venus, which could be quite frustrated, irritated, noticing all the ways we're disrespected. Jupiter in Pisces is like the great guru pulling that up and saying, calm down, relax, you're beautiful, you're loved. It's okay. You got a little twisted around and you're looking for people and situations to be God or transcendent, and they're not. So find the beauty in what is authentically beautiful and transcendent and not limited by time, place, person, and all these details of this world, which is Virgo. And by the way, there's exalted Mercury here, which is also bringing that discrimination, because Mercury is where we're less serious about all that stuff and where we can be a little more lighthearted about it. So this is a sort of overview of some current retrograde combust effects. And again, be careful of this for the next week or so. Actually, it's more than that, because the combustion orb of Venus is, I believe it's 12 degrees. I don't have off the top of my head, 10 or 12 degrees. But again, this, I love you, damn it, now you better respect me or I'll tear you limb from limb. Maybe you're not doing it externally, but internally we're like, I want that beauty, I want that connection. Again, because when Venus is joined the sun, when it's behind the sun like this, the sun is amplifying it. Again, this is a different part of the interpretation. The combustion, there's a lot of force. It's different than the retrograde. There's not a lot of confusion. We don't feel confused when we're angry. When we're angry, we feel, I know why. We feel, because we put a lot of force and energy behind it. It's a very different and opposite thing. I also made the illusion that retrograde is much more similar to Rahu, and Ketu is very similar to the combustion. So you should learn these things correctly if you're an astrology student. This upcoming course I'm going to be teaching, you're going to learn it. It's incredibly affordably priced and everything else, so check that out as well.